said I wouldn't do another review of this video, but here I am again, only because it was pointed out to me that Marcus did yet another piece on there being 2 Apollo 13 command modules and demanding the parrots explain why. So here I go for the 3rd or 4th time. Fuck you, Marcus, Scott, and Robert.
It's just a shame the Russians were having some naval exercises when Apollo 13 launched.
Apollo 13 launched on April 11, 1970. Operation Okean ran from the 14th of April to the 5th of May 1970. It started 3 days after Apollo 13 launched. It included the Soviet Northern, Black Sea, Baltic, and Pacific fleets. It consisted of 84 surface warships, 45 other vessels, 20 naval aviation regiments, 8 anti-aircraft and long-range aviation regiments, and 15 nuclear-powered submarines along with 65 diesel-powered submarines. And if you believe Marcus' 25 years of research, Alan, it was all done so the Soviets could capture an Apollo boilerplate capsule.
That they pick up the command module.
Yeah, none of the parrots have ever answered the question.
Marcus' 25 years of research, Alan, all I do is answer your questions. And when I answer your questions, I actually provide evidence, unlike you. However, you have decided to block all answers on your channel. So stop asking fucking questions if you are not going to listen to the answers.
What was that command module doing floating in the Atlantic the day after the official launch of Apollo 13?
Marcus, 25 years of research, Alan, the command module boilerplate, BP 1227, was stationed at an American military air base in the Azores. It was being used for recovery training by the British Navy. This was in case of an emergency abort that would result in an Apollo capsule landing in the North Atlantic. The best available information indicates that it was lost in early 1969 during a training exercise somewhere between the Azores and the Bay of Biscay. The matter has been researched in detail by Eddie Pugh. I suggest you read his report, or actually watch one of my response videos on the topic.
What was that command module doing floating in the Atlantic the day after the official launch of Apollo 13?
Marcus' 25 years of research, Alan. You keep stating that boilerplate 1227 was in the North Atlantic Ocean on April 12, 1970, the day after Apollo 13 was launched on April 11th, and 2 days before Operation Okean started on the 14th of April 1970. Do you have any proof for this claim? Everything I have read says that BP 1227 was lost in early 1969 and recovered by the Soviets in June 1969, and not returned to the USA until September 1970. So why are you claiming it was in the Atlantic Ocean on April 12, 1970? How could it be if the Soviets still had it?
They've never addressed it. They won't even think about it. They won't even go anywhere near it, because if they did, they would see that the whole story of Apollo 13 was fake. Parrots, here is your mission should you choose to accept it.
See my other video, Marcus' 25 years of research, Alan, because you made this same stupid challenge a while back, and I responded to it back then. Perhaps you should have watched it. It's called Marcus and Gandhi Get IT Wrong Apollo 13 Centimeters They Claim There Are 2.
Explain what an Apollo command module, whether it's a boilerplate 1227 or the official Apollo 13 command module, doesn't matter.
If you're wondering why I keep referring to Marcus Allen as Marcus' 25 years of research, Alan, it's because he keeps telling everyone that he's been researching the Apollo program for the last 25 years, and yet in every video that he's made so far that involves the Apollo detectives, all he does is ask questions and demand answers from the people he calls parrots. Think about that. He calls us parrots because, in his opinion, all we do is parrot the official NASA documentation on Project Apollo. Then he demands we answer his questions. Exactly what answer is he expecting if all we do is parrot NASA? Is Marcus that stupid? Or is it just that he does not know what he is saying anymore? I think it's both. He is so good at parroting his own lines, he doesn't know what he is saying.
Something was floating in the Atlantic Ocean the day after the official launch of Apollo 13. Right, parrots. Why was it floating there?
Fuck off.
What was it doing there?
Fuck off.
Who lost it?
Fuck off.
And what was it about?
Fuck off. And why can't we see it now?
Why can't we see it now? Scott wants to know why can't we see it now. He wants to know why we can't see a boilerplate command module in the North Atlantic back in 1970. I'll leave him to figure that one out himself. As to all Marcus' 25 years of research Alan's questions, I've already answered all of them, several times, and if he had any answers, if he'd done any of the research he claims, if he knew anything about the Apollo program, he'd already have all the answers, and he'd have presented his evidence, not just fucking stories.
Exactly. Why has it been sealed till 2076?
Boilerplate BP 1227 has been sealed until 2076 because it's a time capsule, as the plaque states. You dumb fucks. Honestly, do you engage your brains before you engage your mouths?
It's a Grand Rapids Museum if you want to go and see it. It's on display. There's nothing hidden. The official Apollo 13 command module is at the Kansas Cosmodrome. That's on display too. Why have you got two Apollo 13 command modules on display?
Fuck you, Marcus. You're the worst kind of fucking liar. The boilerplate on display in Grand Rapids has a different shaped door to the actual Apollo 13 command module on display in Hutchinson, Kansas. It is a mass simulator, with no hardware inside. It was not in the North Atlantic on April 12, 1970. It was lost somewhere between the Azores and the Bay of Biscay in early 1969. It was found by the Soviets in June 1969. All this happened 10 months before Apollo 13. So explain why you keep repeating the out-and-out lie that there are two Apollo 13 command modules on display.
Come on, parrots, answer that one.
Fuck off.
Or are you so ridiculously
Fuck off.
infected by NASA's
Fuck off.
story that you can't even think about it?
Fuck off.
No, Marcus, 25 years of research, Alan. You explain how boilerplate BP 1227 can be in the hands of the Soviets from June 1969 until its return in September 1970, and in the North Atlantic on April 12, 1970.
Come on, get real, guys. Get out there, do some proper research, and stop just whittering on about how wrong we all are. We're not wrong.
Fuck off.
We know what we're talking about. We've done the research.
You see, people who have actually done their research don't answer, do your own research, when asked for proof to back up their claims. They say, here's my research.
You haven't. You just parrot NASA.
Fuck off.
So get on and do some proper research, and then we'll find out what's really going on. Because until we do, if we don't find out what's going on now...
Marcus, you said something right at the very beginning. You said, I do not doubt that man landed on the moon. Is that correct?
We're going to still continue this ridiculous charade of launching rockets into space.
So, in fact, you are not advocating that man did not land on the moon?
That haven't got the idea behind them that Apollo had. Apollo, when it was conceived, back in the mid-1960s, it was a very good idea. But something went wrong. They discovered something about space travel that they still haven't talked about.
In school you were taught that Apollo 11 lost contact with the world for 2 minutes. Not true.